What makes Loid Forger such an amazing protagonist, not just in general in shonen, but specifically as a spy? Well, there are a couple of things that make him such a memorable character that stands out, but there are a couple of key factors that I would like to focus on. Number one is his family. His fake family, that despite them being a part of his mission, at least that's how it starts, he grows to care about them so much. Anya and Yor make him a lot more emotional, a lot more human, a lot more than he ever allowed himself to be. And despite him trying to justify his new emotions and the decision he makes, it's clear that they are a lot more than a mission to him. Loid almost blew his cover numerous times in order to protect Anya or to make her happy or to make her feel better. And as the mission goes on, you can see him thinking of her more and more as someone who he is here to protect and less as a means to an end. Furthermore, Anya is very unpredictable as a kid. Because of that, it makes Loid have to make these snappy, quick decisions that he's just not used to making, which breaks him out of the mold that he's been in for such a long time. For him, this family that he has, they aren't some end goal for him. Again, this is a mission, but this family is becoming an integral part of who he is. And for a spy, something like that should be very scary, and yet for Loid, it helps him be more human. It helps us identify with him a lot more. We already know what an amazing husband and father he would be, because he already is one. And he even feels so guilty about using Anya and Yor for his mission. We see this multiple times. He cares for them in a way that he never cared for anyone before, and even goes very much out of his way to make this family feel as authentic as possible. We can see this based on how he almost asks Yor to marry him for real. It doesn't seem like he wants this family of his to be separated after his mission is over. He knows that once this mission is over, they will more than likely have to be separated. It's these bonds that make him so much stronger, but at the same time they are his weak spots. It separates him from the stereotypical spy hero who always gets all the women and happiness with relatively little effort because of the plot armor that they have. Loid doesn't quite have that, at least not emotionally. He's scared of getting too close to this family. He's scared of the attachments and scared of what will happen to them if he fails. Not because this would be his failure as a spy, but because he cares for Yor and Anya's futures. And yet, despite these efforts to separate himself from them, he keeps getting dragged closer to them more and more as the series goes on. Loid is often seen as the most serious of the main cast, and yet because of his family, the facade of him being a cold-hearted man is very easily broken. We see this even in his comedic timings. His comedy comes from overthinking every situation he's in with people and with the people around him. And yet those are some of his best episodes. For all of his skills as a spy, he doesn't quite seem to understand how things work when he has to be genuine with people, which leads me to believe that he might even have some form of social anxiety that he hides by being a spy and by burying himself in this work. He even tries to tell himself that his family is a part of his work, which we all know by now is a lie. He loves his family. There isn't anything he wouldn't do for his family. His family is the core of the show, much like the comedy of the show is. So when we see Loid get all serious as part of his work, it also switches the tone a bit, and it helps us remember that, oh yeah, There is real danger in this show, and there is a danger of what will happen to Loid's family if his mission fails. Which is why, as the show goes on, he keeps trying harder and harder to make sure that everything he planned perfectly goes perfectly. Loid uses his brain a lot more than his brawn. We do see that he is skilled enough as a fighter. Yor seems to best him in this aspect. This isn't what he's best at. And yet we've seen time and time again that Loid, he comes out on top by relying on mind games rather than sheer power to win his battles. He also does rely a bit on his charm as a spy, but unlike the typical spy or assassin or secret agent, he really places a lot more value on the things that he himself can glean and deduct from a situation, and only after he has a perfect plan does he go through with it. This wacky family of his often than not throws all of this out the window, bringing us right back to the comedy aspect of this show. Even though these more serious moments do help paint Loid as maybe a bit more of an anti-hero, when we see how many things he does in this show that are illegal or sketchy or even go into the extreme. Those are balanced not only by the comedy of the show, but by how much he is shown to be doing these things more and more for the sake of his family. Because he's starting to do all of these things more for their sake than for the sake of his mission, I think this also helps to highlight that Loid is fundamentally a very kind-hearted person. Despite the cold way he acts a lot of the time, it's important for the viewer to have these moments where Loid isn't just being cold, smooth, or calculated, but also a genuinely good and loving person. He warms up to Anya and Yor very quickly, even bonds with them outside of knowing when he's being watched. He goes out of his way to do things that he knows will make them happy and will make their lives easier, whether now when they are part of his mission or afterwards. And it's not just his fake family that he shows this new kindness to, but it's also the people around him, his friends. Like we see with Frankie when he tried to comfort him after he didn't get with the woman he wanted, or when he's worried about Fiona when she was putting herself through extreme physical hardship on their undercover mission, or even with Damien, who is a huge part of his mission, and yet he stands up for him in one of the last episodes of the first season. Yes, Damien is a way to get to Damien's dad, the real target, but Loid still went above and beyond to make sure that Damien doesn't feel alone, like Anya felt or like he felt before her, being a war orphan and all. Loid's backstory is the perfect foundation for a cold-hearted spy, but what it did instead is just make him a lot more kind to others, even when he himself doesn't seem to realize it. I believe that by the end of his arc, he will become not only one of the best spy protagonists in media, but he will become, if he isn't already, one of the best husbands and fathers in media. Remember, don't just consume, think.